Gabriel, and today the goal of this webinar is to present to you the new features that were added in the version 10.0 and 10.1 of Evolia. So if you have any questions during the meeting, feel free to ask them in the question chat. I'll answer them at the end of the meeting. And also, the meeting will be recorded and it'll be available on the Evolia website a few days after today. So you'll be able to revisit and review this webinar if you want to. So I'll go straight ahead. I'm currently sharing my screen in a demo Evolia account, and I'm going to go through all the different features that we've added and that we've improved as well in the version 10.0 and 10.1 of Evolia. So let's go in the first feature, which is the real-time work management solution, which we call the live feature. In this feature, what you can do is that you can visualize your schedules for the current day and what's going on in your schedule. So you can see the hours in which the employees were supposed to start and end. So here I have this employee, John Doe, who was supposed to start at 9 a.m. and finish at 5 p.m. And you can see that this employee here, Alicia, was supposed to start at 11 a.m. and finish at 7 p.m. Obviously, right now, there's only 2 shifts because this is a demo account. However, you can have as many shifts as you'd like in this visual right here. You could have like 50 shifts if you wanted to and see the information for all of those shifts. So what you can do with this vision is that you can see if the employee clocked in, let's say late, if they forgot to clock in, like maybe they're absent. So you can see a live view of what's going on your work floor right now. You can see the time of the breaks that are upcoming. So if you want to make sure that there's not 2 employees at the same time going on breaks, you can also move the breaks by just selecting the logo here of a fork and a knife. And let's say I want to move this break right here, which is currently scheduled from 3 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. I could just move it to, let's say 2:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. if I wanted to. And I only want to make this the change for this shift only. I could also make the change for this shift and the following. So you can see what's going on your floor in live time with the clock in and clock outs of your employees. So from here, you can also filter the shifts that you want to see. So you can filter either by team, by position, by locations, by employees. And then you could also here select by employment statuses, and you could also select from these features right here, from these filters. I have the possibility to filter the employees that are currently working, the employees that started early, the employees that have overtime, so that clock more than what was scheduled, or an employee that just did not punch out. All the planned shifts, all the employees that are currently on break, so unpaid breaks or on unpaid breaks, the employees that are absent, or all the employees that punched out early. So there's many different filters that you can apply to see the different variations of or the different types of irregularities in terms of the punches of your employees. The other thing you can do is, as it is possible in the schedules and in the timesheet, it is possible for you to group by team, position, location, or sublocation. So right now I'm grouped by position. So you see here, I have an employee that is a manager and an employee that has a security position, and they're both split up in their respective positions. So you can split the shifts by position, by grouping by position, or group by team and split them in teams. So you see that Alicia is working in team A and that John Doe is working in team B. So it is possible to do that as well. There's also display options by clicking on the gear logo. There's 2 of them, so you can decide to show the shift details or not. So in the shift details, if you hide them, you'll see here it will hide the shift details from the shifts right here. And if I decide to activate this option right here, it will color the plan shift with the color of the position. So the manager position is in blue, and then the security position is in red. The red bar here means that the employee is absent. Obviously, this is a demo account. These are not real employees, so therefore there's no actual clock in right here, which is why these two employees are absent. You can see the amount of shifts that are planned, the amounts of employees that are currently working, so that clocked in, the employees that are currently on break, and the employees that are currently absent according to the planned shift. And you can also move through the days. So if you want to see your planification for October 10th and you want to make sure that all the breaks are correctly set up so there's not two employees at the same time in a break, you can also go in the future and go and edit breaks in future days. So that's something you can do. And you can also go into past days to see what happened to your clock-ins in the past days instead of just seeing the current day. But the most valuable option is obviously to look at your current day. But there is the option for you to go back in time and to go into the future to look at your planning. So it's a really interesting new view that we've added for managers that want to make sure that everyone is at work, everyone clocked in at the right time, make sure that no one's absent, even though you're not currently on the floor, maybe you're away, maybe you're at home. It is a view that is available for you managers and supervisors and administrators in your account to keep track of what's going on currently on the floor. The next thing we've added is that we've made improvements to the stat holiday creation. So if we go over in the settings right here, and then we go over to payroll and time off, we'll have the time off categories here. I'm sorry, wrong place, the holidays management. And in the holidays management is where you can create your stat holidays. So let's say in Canada, there's Thanksgiving coming up. You can create a holiday. And then obviously, as you could before, you can give it a name. You can select the type of leave. So we're going to select holiday, and then you can select the date, which is next Monday. After that, you can select the calculation type. So as there was before, it is possible for you to just pay a fixed amount of money. There's or hours. This is still possible, or based on the hours worked in the previous days or weeks. So it is possible to pay a pro rate of time worked, which was possible previously as well. This is not something new. So let's say the classic of the 1/20th for the past 4 weeks in Quebec. But there's also the possibility to pay a daily average for the period that you've selected. So let's say you would like to pay a daily average for the hours worked in the past week. You could select a custom period and just go ahead and select, let's say, from so the holiday is going to be on October 13th. So let's say I want to have an average of the daily hours worked per employees. I could just go and select from Monday the 6th to Friday the 10th. So this way I'll have all the average hours of the employees, and it'll calculate the stat holiday based on the daily average amount of hours worked in these past days. I also have the possibility to include paid time off, include overtime, include shift premiums, which was still possible in the past. It is not something new. Another thing that we've added is that it is now possible for you to add a premium for all the employees that will work during the stat holidays. So previously you needed to go either to plan a premium for a specific day, or to go manually into the shifts of your employees and add the premium if there was a specific premium to be applied on stat holidays. However, it is now possible for you to apply a premium to all of your employees working automatically on that day by just going and select apply a premium and then selecting one of the premiums that you've added into your account. So the premium needs to be created. Otherwise, you can also add a premium spontaneously in here. But you can also just click on overtime here, which is a premium that I've created for that day, and the shift premium for overtime is going to be applied on that day. So all the employees that will work on that day will have the overtime and the stat holiday. If I click on next, I also have the possibility to decide what employees I want the stat holiday to be applied to. So this was possible in the past, but we now have eligibility rules that we can add. So we first of all have a possibility to enter a minimum of days employed. So this will take the hiring date of the employee, and you can enter a number of days that you would like the employees to be employed for to be eligible for the stat holiday. So if I enter 90 days, all employees who will have their hiring date within 90 days of the stat holiday will not have the stat holiday be applied, and all the employees that have more than 90 days since their hiring date will have the stat holiday being applied on their schedule. And then after that, you can also enter the minimum number of days worked in the previous X amount of days. So let's say I want all employees that have at least 20 days of work in the previous 30 days before the holiday. I can make it so all the employees need to have at least 20 days worked in the past 30 days to have the holiday. And I can also check this option right here, which recalculates the eligibility on the day of the holiday. This is used for companies that will create stat holidays in advance. So let's say, for example, today we are October 9th, and I want to create the stat holiday for Christmas coming up on December 25th. What will happen is that I can select a team, a position, and let's say all of the employees with that team will be applied to the stat holiday. But let's say between today and Christmas, there's going to be employees that we hire, so there's going to be new employees, and there's also going to be employees that left the enterprise. So I want all the employees that left the enterprise not to have the stat holiday anymore, and I want all the new employees that joined to have the stat holiday. What this does is exactly this. Automatically on the day of the stat holiday, it will remove the stat holiday from the employees that you've created it for in advance, and it will add it to all the employees that you've added since the creation of the holiday. So you can make sure that you don't have to do this manually anymore, because there was the option to do this manually, which is still there if you prefer to do it manually, but now you can do it automatically with this option right here. And then in the confirmation window, there's nothing new there. It just shows the employees to which the stat holiday will be applied. So there's a question in the chat. Since it's concerning the stat holidays, I'll go ahead and answer it. With the stat holiday calculations, can you override the amount that Evolia calculates? Example given, if a stat member comes in on a 6th day for a short shift, we don't want that to affect their daily average. Yes, it will be possible for you to manually override the amount that Evolia calculates. However, since you created the stat holiday with an automatic calculation, if you just edit the amount of time of hours that you want to pay to the employee in that stat holiday, the employee will be recalculated always to the automatic amount. So what you can do is you can delete the stat holiday for that specific employee and create a new stat holiday for that employee specifically with a fixed amount of hours, and then that amount of hours will be applied to the employee. But if you just go and edit the stat holiday that you've created with the automatic calculation type, it will unfortunately always get back to that calculation if you edit the stat holiday time. Next up, we have made changes, so improvements to the premiums application. So if we go here in the shift premiums management, we now have two new options that are available for the automatic application of premiums. So the first one is, let's say we just create a test premium here, which is an hourly rate bonus of $1 per hour. There's no changes here. This was still possible in the past. And we go in application. In application, there is the possibility for you to set a specific time frame that you want the employees to have the premium on these hours for a specific days or specific day of the week. So let's say I want all of my employees that work from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. or no, let's say 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. to have a premium. Well, that was still possible in the past. This is nothing new. It is still possible to add a minimum required hours. So you can make it so, let's say I enter 5 minimum required hours. It means that the shift of the employee needs to cover at least 5 hours in this specific time frame that I've added here. So the employee needs to work 5 hours between 2 p.m. and 10 p.m. for the premium to be applied. However, the new thing that we've added is it is now possible to as well add a minimum percentage of shift work in the interval. So if you want all of the shift to be worked in that specific time frame, you can enter a minimum percentage of, let's say, 100%. So all of the shift will need to be within that time frame for the premium to be applied. If you want at least 80% of the shift to be in the time frame for the premium to be applied, you can do that as well. So this is an interesting feature that gives more possibilities for automatic application of premiums. There's also another feature in the processing window here, which lets you define an hour tier. So what this does is that you can, let's say, for example, select more than 0 hours and less than 8 hours. What this will do is that the premium will only be applied for the first 8 hours of the premium. So let's say there's a shift that is 10 hours, but you only want the premium to be applied on the first 8 hours. You can enter a tier from 0 to 8 hours for the premium to only be applied on these hours. And then after that, if past 8 hours, the premium goes from $1 to $1.50, you could create another premium, a second premium, that could be applied with a $1.50 hourly bonus rate instead of $1. And then in the processing here, it's saying that it's going to be $1.50 when an employee works more than 8 hours. So unfortunately, you have to enter the less than amount of hours here. So you could go ahead and just enter 30 because no employee is ever going to do more than that. But basically what this means is that if I create 2 premiums, one from 0 hours to 8 hours with $1 and one from 8 hours to, in that case, 30 hours with $1.50, all the hours over 8 hours during the shift will be applied at $1.50 of a premium, and then all the hours between 0 and 8 will be applied at $1 per hour. So this is really interesting for all the companies that have premiums that need to be multiplied whenever they have overtime. Interesting feature that we've added here, once again, offers more possibility to what you can do with the premiums in the system. Another thing that we've added is filters for punch in and punch out, or just clock in irregularities. So you can filter here per entry types on the timesheets. So before, when we selected filters in the timesheet and you went over the label logo here, it was only possible to see the time entry that were not validated, not validated, and the time entries that were not locked. Now it is also possible for you to filter the early arrival and departure, the late arrivals, the departure after end of time, the auto clock out by the system. So when an employee forgets to clock out and the system clocks them out automatically, the punched outside of zone. So if employees use the mobile punch on their cell phone and you've installed a zone on a certain location and you want to see all of the employees that clocked out of that zone, it is possible to filter all of those clock-ins and then all the employees that are absent. So it is possible for you to manage your filters of what you want to see on your timesheet. So that's a new feature that we've added as well, really interesting for managing approval of timesheets. We've also improved our expense model. So if we go over into the settings and then we go over payroll and time off, you now have the expenses management, which is a new section in the payroll and time off. From here, you'll have default expenses types that are already created into the account, but it is now possible for you to create new expense types, which was not possible previously. So when you add an expense type, you can give it a name. And another thing that we've added is that you can edit the units. So previously it was only possible to have expenses in money, but now you can also have expenses in distance or quantity. So let's say you want to have a premium that is entered in miles instead of being entered in money. You can enter a distance, and then you can either enter kilometers or miles as a unit. And then once you've entered your unit, you can save that expense, and it'll be possible for employees to use that premium in the future on their timesheet. The other thing that we've added in the expenses management is that previously it was not possible for managers to approve premiums. It was automatically approved. Now all premiums needs to be approved by managers, so managers can verify easier in the more they can verify more easily the premiums that have been added by the employees. So let's say I go in an employee's timesheet. Let's just take Adrian here, which is the first one in the list. I can go ahead and click on the plus logo in the expenses section right here. So I'll add two expenses. Let's say I'll add the test one, which I've just created. You see here the unit is in miles, so this is what the employee is going to see. They can enter, let's say, 100, and as it was possible previously, they can enter a description and also attach a file if it is required to. And then after that, I can also select another expense type, and let's say this one is parking and this one is in an amount of money. I can enter, let's say, $15 here and just enter once again a description and then save. So I've added two different types of premiums, but you see now that the status is pending and that there's an X and a green check. So obviously the X is to decline and the green check is to approve. So whenever I approve an expense, it will change the status to approved. And when I go back to my general view of timesheets, all the employees that have expenses on their timesheets will be displayed right here with this logo. So if there's an employee with this logo right here, the sheet with the dollar in it, it means that the employee has expenses. So you can go in that employee's timesheet and approve it. So there's a question in the chat. It says, can employees add photo or receipts from the app? Yes, they can add. They can add a file of a picture of the receipt from the app. It is possible to do so from the mobile app, absolutely. And then from there, you'll be able to see from the approval window, you'll be able to see that picture that the employee added. So this is what we've made as improvements to the expense model. Keep in mind that the expense model can be activated from your models and integrations here, as well as the live view, which should automatically be activated in most of your accounts. But if you want to activate the expenses model, you can go there in expenses and activate it in the models and integration section right here. So it is something that you can do on your own in your account. And finally, the last thing that we've added is reporting of budgets and expenses. So if we go here in the report section, you now have reports for budget and attendance. So if we go over to budget monitoring, and this is not a good example, I'll go in another account right here. Let's go in this one right here. It's a better example. If we go over to the reports here, and then I go over to budget monitoring, I'll see this info right here. So obviously, to have the budget monitoring display information, you need to create budgets in your settings. So to add the budget section, you can just go over to your settings, go in schedules and availability, and in budget tracking, activate the staffing budget. And then from there, you'll be able to create budgets. If I go back to the reporting and I go back to budget monitoring, it'll be possible for me to see the budgets that I've added in my account. So you can see here, I have my cardio team budget, and I can see the amount of hours that was budgeted, the amount of hours scheduled for the week, the amount of variance, so in hours and in percentage. So you see here right now I have 0 hours scheduled in that team, so I'm under 40 hours of my budget, and I'm 100% under my budget as well. And I can also see the amount of hours that are that were actually worked and the variance between the hours worked and what was scheduled. So there's a lot of information that you can see here. So if you have a lot of different budgets activated on your account, you'll be able to see the list of all of your budgets and the variation here, which when you have more than one budget is possible. It is possible for you to sort per variation. So if you want to see all of your budget that are over the budget in terms of variance, you'll be able to sort per variance percentage in here. So really interesting feature. From here, you can change the weeks that you want to see the budget for. So if you want to go back in the past and see what was worked in previous weeks in that budget, you'll be able to do that as well. So really interesting feature here. And then as well in the reports here, it is possible to go over to the attendance report. And this is another one that I think is really interesting. It lets you see a lot of different info, a lot of data on the employees' hours worked in previous days. So first of all, here you can change the period for which you want to see the information. And then in here, for the period that is selected, you'll be able to see the number of work shift, the work duration, the number of shift assigned, the assigned shift duration. So you see here, since it's a demo account, this employee only worked 8 hours out of 536, which doesn't really make sense. But I mean, I think you get what it would look like when there's actually real data. But then you can see the number of absences, the percentage of absences, and there's a lot of different data that you can see according to the punch out, the punch in, the employee that were late, the employees that punched more hours than what was planned. So there's a lot of different columns with different data that you can display here. Obviously, this is a lot of information, and we want you to be able to display only the information that you want to. So the way it works is that if you click on this logo right here in the upper right portion, you can decide what columns you want to show. So there's a lot of different columns that you can go through. So there's columns for assigned shifts, unplanned shifts, all the late absences, replacements, swaps, open shifts, work shifts, and punch of employees. So there's a lot of data that you can go through here. It's once again a really interesting reporting feature that we've added in platform to give you more tools to manage the attendance of your employees. So once again, really interesting feature. And from here, you can filter once again per teams, per position, per location, per employees, or as well per type. So you can filter by employment statuses here. So these are the additions that we've made to version 10 and 10.1. As I mentioned earlier in the meeting, this session will be recorded and will be available on our website later on, probably in the upcoming month. So if you want to pass that along to some of your colleagues for them to see this meeting, if they were not available to see it today, it's going to be possible to do so. And I'll just, before I finish the meeting, I'll just let 2 more minutes. If there's any one of you that have questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. There was a few questions during the meeting. Feel free to ask them. I'll leave you 2 minutes if there's any questions you can think of relating to what I just showed you. Otherwise, I thank you for your time. There's Jules here. Do stat holiday calcs have to be set up in Evolia advance of the holiday? No, you can go ahead. Let's say the holiday was yesterday. You could go ahead in Evolia and create a stat holiday for yesterday and select an automatic stat holiday calc, and it will calc the amount of time that was in the past. I say the only thing that you need to keep in mind is that the calcs are done on the amount of money that was paid to the employee. Therefore, you need to have the employee's hourly wage entered on their profile for the stat holiday calc to work. Otherwise, it will not automatically calc on hours only. So that's something to keep in mind. And you also obviously to make sure that the employees add hours in the past weeks. Obviously, if you start using Evolia this week and you never add hours in the past and you try to calc automatically for Thanksgiving that is coming up this Monday, obviously if you have no data, there's not going to be anything calculated. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining in. I really appreciate your presence here. And I'll wish you a good rest to your day and a good weekend, and I'll see you on the next webinar. Thank you very much.